Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Upper Tier Podcast, the football podcast we bring you each and every week. It is the Shankly Sessions. Short reaction to the match last night. Brentford 3, Liverpool 2. Really poor. A really disappointing showing after the energy and the positivity that came out of Wednesday night against Frankfurt. And we did say that would we be identifying this as an actual blip, or have we turned a corner, or had Slot found the formula or the recipe for what we need to stop us getting exposed on the flanks, to stop us shipping goals and all the rest of it. And listening to Virgil after the match last night and all, you could hear how disappointed he was and stuff like that, and they just can't seem to find the answer at the moment. And last night, in truth, if you look at the game, we did the watch along, so I was hoping the watch along was going to be a lot of fun. Saturday night, 8 o'clock game and all, but it felt more like penance than he did like fun, to be honest. But thank you to everyone who tuned into it. But it was, in truth, it was a disgraceful performance by everyone. No one came out of it looking good, to be honest. We were really poor all around the park. And I did say at the start of the watch along, looking at the team that he picked and looking at the way the team was set up, and he's going to fall on the sword if he keeps on doing this, but we are not set up in any way, shape or form for that formation. We don't have all the tools to deploy it, and he looks like his stubbornness is going to try and stick it out and push it through, and it's going to be a real problem, because these results are going to continue. And now we're staring into a really tough run of games. You know, you got Crystal Palace on Wednesday in the Carabao Cup, who've already shown this season that they have our number, even though it's at Anfield. Then we have Aston Villa, then we have Man City, then we have Real Madrid. All these games coming thick and fast. None of these games are now easy. Quite frankly, to be honest, if we were playing West Ham or Wolves next, it would still be a struggle. These players don't understand this system, and I think they're getting conflicting information in terms of what they're supposed to be doing. I have to say as well, folks, I'm absolutely soaked here in the car. We were in at the Dublin City Marathon supporting Aaron, our nephew, and David as well, who comes into the shop, David Byrne, who I've known for years. We were out cheering them on, and it was absolutely lashing rain. It was horrible. And fair play to everyone who did it. It's so motivating when you see people doing this, and like all those runners out there even pushing, you know, wheelchair bound people up hills and stuff like that and all. Absolutely hats off to them. I can't say enough for, you know, how inspiring it is to see, and how emotional it is as well, actually, when you go and watch it. So hats off. Something positive coming out of the weekend, that's for sure. But yeah, I thought to a man yesterday, I thought that the playing around at the back and how bad it was. I said it on the watch along, and just couldn't string a pass together. Players not wanting to take responsibility on the pitch. Absolutely no leadership. Starting the game without a DM, wide open in the middle of the park. And Brentford literally just bullied us off every ball. There barely was a ball that we even won. Every time we got the ball, we were picking the wrong pass, or we were trying to tread passes through the eye of a needle. Constantly coughing up possession. Constantly getting bullied off the ball. Mo Salah never in the game. I know he picked up that goal and all, but realistically never in the game. Like Atike, I think in the first 25 minutes barely got a touch. You know, Kerkez doing a madness again, was all over the place on the pitch, insane. Picked up the yellow card, obviously had to be hooked. Obviously got the goal at the end of the half there, you know, creeping in at the back post. Took it well. But overall, just really poor. When you look at the performance, like we realistically last night deserved nothing out of that game. Absolutely nothing. And if we had drawn that game last night, it would have been a sad indictment really on Brentford, because they were so in control of that game. They to a man, every man was better than every man for us on the pitch, and by a distance. And to be honest, the scoreline flattered us. To be honest, we were so bad, so bad. You know, just even every time, second balls not dropping for us, or not challenging for them, barely challenging for headers. So much missing from that display last night. A lack of courage, a lack of intensity. You know what I mean? You looked at Brentford playing last night and you nearly think that they were the team that nearly spent a net spend of nearly 200-300 million in the summer. We looked like we were aged out, that we were absolutely shocking. The senior players, absolutely dross. Marmadashvili, nervous as hell, made a couple of good saves, but really nervous in possession. Really slow to release the ball. You know, first touches non-existent all around the park, having to take second touches and then getting closed down. And at one stage it looked as if Brentford had about 20 players on the pitch, because every time the ball came into any of our key players, they were getting crowded out. Running down dead ends, running into trouble, you know, just not playing that controlled passing game, you know. And the statistics will show about creating chances and all that kind of stuff, and some of them created in the first half and stuff like that. But we were so poor. It was just, last night, I love watching my team, I love supporting my team, but that was utter dross last night. And a lot of questions now needing to be answered from the gaffer. And he didn't really answer them in the post-match presser. And he doesn't really like to take any responsibility really either, you know what I mean? He talks about a lot of things and he likes to throw shade and stuff like that and all. But in truth, last night, Brentford were by far the better team. They were better coached. They were better set up. And hats off to Keith Andrews as well, a guy that we were kind of talking Brentford would be in trouble this year, losing the players that they lost, and Thomas Frank leaving and Keith Andrews coming in and all, they'd be in real trouble and all. Absolutely not. Playing absolutely fantastic stuff. And like, it really rang true to me last night on the watch along when I was looking at it, when I see the press being applied, and who's at the tip of the press with about 6 minutes to go. Nathan Collins is pressing, running out and pressing. These guys would have died for Keith Andrews last night. Our players looked like it was the last place they wanted to be. They certainly didn't want to be on the pitch. They certainly didn't want to be playing football. And they just didn't fancy it. And they got bullied off the ball left, right and centre. We picked up a number of injuries as well. You know, you drop Dom back into right back again. It just absolutely irritates the shit out of me. You know, and then he has to concede and bring Joe Gomez on because we were getting battered in the middle of the park. You know, we're putting a bunch of forwards on again, absolutely throwing stuff at the wall to see if it sticks. We have a single player in midfield who's now supposed to take control of the game and feed these 4 or 5 forwards that we have on the pitch. It just is insane. Then he has to concede and bring on Joe Gomez to put Dominic Szoboszlai back in midfield to make things happen. And it's just like, what are we thinking here? What are we about? What are we trying to do here? Why are we changing a formula that we found on Wednesday night that worked? Albeit it was Frankfurt, albeit we know, you know, that there's defensive issues there and that teams are scoring goals against them. But like, we looked so much better. We looked more like a shape that we were used to. We looked more like the players on the pitch knew their jobs. You know what I mean? And then we're standing down players. You know what I mean? And I don't know. The gaffer's closer to these players than any of us and all. You know what I mean? But, you know, how does Chiesa not get a start last night? How does Robbo not start last night? Why do we revert back to the same again? Why are we reverting back to the formation that's been absolute fucking dross for the last month or whatever it is? And yet we're going back there again as if he's determined to stick with this to make sure that he can include players that are just not performing. We're picking players now based on reputation than we are based on merit. You know what I mean? And it's just, that kind of formula is the kind of formula that gets people sacked. And people know I'm not the kind of Liverpool fan that turns like that. I'm all about supporting the team. I'm all about supporting the club. I'm all about supporting the manager. As hard as it gets and as tough at times as it gets and stuff like that and all. As fans, we have to dig in and we have to support the club. But you have to show us something. You have to show us that there's a plan, that there's a pathway, that there's a framework, that there's a thinking behind all this that gives us an idea of what you're trying to do. And at the moment, it's absolute fucking dross all over the park. Not a single player has a clue what he should be doing. I was looking at the formation last night evening. That formation at times, it was just so scattergun, so haphazard, you know. How have we got guys the size of the players that we have and they are incapable of defending a long throw-in? It's shocking. Absolutely shocking. Defending off a long throw-in and not slagging off long throw-ins, but how archaic is a long throw-in at this stage? That's the kind of thing you can coach under 10s to deal with. We've got monsters in defence. We've got Virgil van Dijk, Ekitike was back in there, Konate. These are all tall players. These aren't short guys. And yet, time and time again, teams are getting the knock on or the opportunity, and we just absolutely go asleep. That Kevin Schade goal last night, again, just going asleep, not reading the game. And it was a carbon copy of the Ekitike goal nearly from Frankfurt game. It's just so poor. So poor. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing positive to come out of last night. 4 games in the league now we've lost on the spin. And my fear is it could get worse. It could get worse. Unless this coach smartens up real quick. And unless we start deploying a formation that these players are familiar with and that they're going out. You look at Brentford last night. There's not a single player on that Brentford team walked onto that pitch last night that didn't know what his job was. Look at how I just shut down Mo Salah like he was nothing. And again, Mo Salah, even when balls broke through, just didn't even look like he had the pace or the desire to put himself about. Every single ball that went into him, he practically lost. Ekitike wasn't in the game for nearly 25 minutes. Gakpo got crowded out. Kerkez was getting crowded out. Constantly recycling the ball back into the middle. And then we were just crowded out constantly. It really felt when I was doing the watch along last night that we were up against 20 Brentford players. It was so poor. So poor. Now we have to ask ourselves, you know, Arsenal will probably go and beat Crystal Palace today. And then the gap will be, 7 points? That's game over. That's title conceded. Our defence of our title is conceded. And we're not even out of October. And if we don't shape up real quick, we're going to struggle for a top 4 or a top 5 race, whatever the coefficient is. It's so poor. And these players look absolutely shot. Absolutely shot. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. But we're in real trouble right now. Subscribe, hit the bell notification button and drop a like in the video. Talk to you again real soon, Reds.